What's up, good people? It's your girl, Safia Ashejasi, aka Fire, because I stay bringing that heat and that orta. Yes, yes, yeah. The month of April has been very interesting. A lot of uphill battles, small wins here and there, but I'm still here through it all. So, I have mentioned before that I have been working with students from Pepperdine University, the student run ad agency called Wave, and Dr. Jazz Gray and her students. So both situations was very different, some better than others, but all in all, it all served a good purpose and me revamping Black Girl Fire. So, some of the things that like I have received from the students from Dr. Jazz class was case studies that they've been doing research about discrimination that neurodivergent people experience, because still to this day, like the accessibility and accommodation needs, average needs for people who are neurodivergent aren't necessarily known. And I know I'm in a couple battles uh, within myself, especially according with my loving situation, and making sure that like how people communicate and talk, and it's just like people don't even know how to have compassion or understand, or just just be empathetic that sometimes people process information differently, and it's not always got to be a tug of war where we all fighting for power and control over another person and dominate a situation or a person. So like that's like one thing that I'm working through, as like over like these past 3 years I have been really learning by myself and learning about the accessibilities and accommodation needs that I need, because I am a recovering people pleaser. I am really um, getting to the point where I'm not masking and I'm willing to let me just being me, and it's still a process of me getting used to. But I want to go ahead and read this case study, so y'all can have a better understanding of challenges that neurodivergent people go through with just being included in, within society. So so yeah. So, founded in 1996, Project Artworks collaborates with neurodiverse artists and those with complex support needs, providing them with studio space, materials, and facilitators. Tom, who works with lead artist Lucy, is like many other facilitators, also an artist, and is keen to stress the collaborative nature of the practice. It's a mutual experience. He says, I support Lucy and she supports me. Neurodiversity has become something of a buzzword in recent years. It's about replacing the stigma, stigmatization of people with conditions such as autism, with the recognition that these are simply normal variation with qualities of their own. The Turner nomination suggests. Wait, am I right? Okay, wait, hold on. Wait, let me make this bigger so I can see. Okay, the Turner nomination suggests that the art world finally seems to be catching on, though perhaps not fast enough, is some of the attitudes Project Artwork CEO and artist director Kate Adams has encountered are anything to go by. It was only about 6 years ago that a head of exhibition somewhere within the organization said to us, "I don't think it's right to have people with learning disabilities in an exhibition downstairs with an artist of caliber upstairs. They shouldn't be in the same building." Such attitudes have been infuriating and commonplace. Adam co-founded Project Artworks with fellow artist Jonathan Cole after attending neurodiverse classrooms with her son, who has complex needs, and not and noting the high standard of the work. Special schools were these fantastic art art arch little kingdoms. Adams tells me producing talented artists the art world was oblivious to and who lacked practical support. She set out with two goals in mind: to help create connections with individuals who are sometimes hard to reach, and to change perception through showing the work they were making. It's really important within an exhibition to curate a gradual insight in where the work comes from, she says. That tends to have a really good impact on people because they subdued by these incredible artworks, many of which are extraordinary, abstract, spirited images. And then there's a sort of deeper insight into how they were made and who they were made by. Audience perhaps being less hung up on an artist's background or identity have always responded well, but it isn't the audience who are the problem. Project Artworks have spent years trying to open up institutions using the methodology they established and for which they received Art Council funding in 2017. Some, like MK Gallery and Minton Kenyans, have been very receptive, but it hasn't always been easy. It's been really hard to open up the curatorial sector, Adams says. It is incredibly conservative, especially contemporary visual arts, because it's so aligned with theory, commerce, and ego, she says. Adams believes that they have benefited from what she calls an existential crisis in the cultural sector about what is for. COVID has prevailed that, and I think that's one of the reasons why the Turner Prize this year is artist collectives. When they got the nomination, however, they still had to brace themselves. How has it been? Interesting in the response. Some of the coverage has been patronizing and dismissive, putting project artworks in a box marked charity and invoking a word that we both confess to hating worthy. This is a big put down. It's also a way of putting us in a box that says this isn't real. We don't need to take them seriously. They're not real artists, says Adams. It's a disgraceful aberration of actual thinking about what people are seeing. Critics, she says, are heavily invested in the idea of the artist with a capital A. So this sort of collaborative practice simply doesn't seem to compute. Nor does the fact that autism doesn't somehow preclude a person from being an artist. We never talk about our work as outsider art. It's just art, says Adams. People are hopefully starting to recognize this. I think we're in a moment I can say that I absolutely trust it, but it's a good move in the right direction. So I would say this case study is like a good example of what neurodivergent people have to go through with being included in an inaccessible society. Because like I know for me, like through my whole journey of of trying to work in the entertainment industry here in Chicago, like I was scammed at the time because of my hunger, my need to fulfill my passion. But people didn't take me seriously because like how I talk and walk then. Because like about like 10 years ago, I had a severe limp in my talk in my speech was very it is like I had a slur and a heavy speech impediment. So I can very relate to this case study, especially when it was cited where art critics said that neurodivergent artists shouldn't be included with other artists of high caliber. And it was like, can how, how can you just judge a person artwork just based on like their disability? And a lot of times like it's not talk about like the different like discriminations and biases and the ableist that is so prevalent in the community. And yeah, I think it's so important to like include neurodivergent artists because being neurodivergent is like a superpower, which is like creative geniusness, which have had me on this mission of disrupting Hollywood. Um, because like a lot of times, like a lot of the films that we are getting out of Hollywood is remakes. It's the same film over and over again. It's a lot of reboots, and it's like originality and creativity is missing from Hollywood. But there's a lot of executives, like film executives and producers, makes the argument that it will be very expensive to properly accommodate people with disability, which is I think is a bunch of bull because the film industry is worth 20 about 29.7 billion dollars per year. And it's just like it's just like y'all making all this excuse, and it's just a common fact like y'all just don't care. And it's like before the whole pandemic. It's like all the things that people with disability was asking for, like remote work with different accommodations and all types of employees and people in the world and the society said it couldn't be done. But once the pandemic happened, people could work from home, remote work. It was a lot of accessibility. People were more open. But now, as like the world has opened back up, and it's like everybody has forgot about the importance of accessibility and accommodations. And of course, like non-disabled people can't forget about it because like they very human existence and survival in life doesn't depend on accommodations and accessibility. So I have been like I'm in a like situation where I have to make like tough decisions with what I'm going to do in the future of Black Girl Fire. But then on the other side of me is like just trust the process, be fully present in the moment, and know that all my hard work that I have done for this past 3 years wasn't in vain. So like that's where I'm at. But from reading this case study and my personal experience, like is so true because there are so much biases within like the disability community because it's just like so much biases. And it's like yes, like we know like the typical accommodations like for people in a wheelchair or who have mobility challenges, like they need like a ramp to get in a building or a lift to get in a vehicle. And a person who's blind may need audio description or braille to help them to help them live a comfortable and successful life. And a person who's deaf may need captioning. And so, but it's like, what are the common accessibility needs for neurodivergent artists? Because like just like from the pandemic, I had the opportunity to work with people out in Hollywood, but it has always been my dream to work in Hollywood, and my eagerness and work and my eagerness to was something people took advantage of, which left me in a space of being overworked and only working for scraps, and led to work that I created and worked on with a Black collective to be culturally appropriated by white-led disability organization. So yes, it's my mission to disrupt Hollywood to make it more inclusive for Black women who are neurodivergent and also have chronic illness. Because one of the big inspirations for doing this work is what happened to Chadwick Boseman. Because I strongly believe that if the film industry was more inclusive, Chadwick Boseman would still be here. He wouldn't have to live in constant fear of fulfilling his dream before his sickness took him out. And there's so many stories like that. Like Hollywood and the film industry are constantly making attempts to be more inclusive and accessible, but they keep missing the mark every time, and they are so freaking oblivious of doing the one thing what they need to do. They need to consult with different disabled talent filmmakers on how to properly make the film industry more inclusive and accessible. And the fact that 95% of on-screen actors that play disability are played by non-disabled characters, which is a big problem. When the conversation is being had about diversity, equity, and inclusion, disability is being left out of that conversation, or is talked about from a place where people with disability can relate, especially Black disabled people. So it's like people who are at the table who's making the decisions aren't the right people. It's like more Black disabled people need to be at these tables making the decisions. and and it's another thing in just being neurodivergent, because a lot of people don't like they find my artistry and creativity very interesting, but not necessarily, I don't think they understand it or fully grasp it, because I know that I am like a complex thinker, and which I think is why it's been hard for me in like with communicating with people and getting like deals, but it's still something that I'm working on, and I'm getting better each and every day. And so yeah. So, and I also want to remind y'all about my survey called Disrupting Hollywood. So, y'all remember to take out your camera phone and take a picture of the QR code and take the survey to better understand the magnitude of the inaccessibility in the film industry, and help me to think of ways of how to include Black neurodivergent women that also have chronic illness in the film industry, because you have Black women like Monique and Viola Davis talking about the hardship that non-disabled Black women have it in making it into Hollywood. That doesn't even start to mention the hardship that disabled Black women have to just to enter into Hollywood. So by y'all taking this survey will help me on a mission to create more opportunities for Black women who are neurodivergent and have chronic illness. And that's all I have for y'all today. And remember to be kind and gentle to yourself, and that's awesome.